Excellent. So, hi everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to another workshop about accessibility. And I want to say that I am so impressed with how many people are not only willing to talk about accessibility and to work on accessibility of their documents, but actually eager to and happy to. It's really amazing. A lot of times when I've done this kind of work with faculty, I get a lot of resistance, and so it's really cool to see how many people here are gung-ho about this and interested in learning more. So. I know how uncomfortable it is to be starting a new project, especially when you have so many things going on and so much on your plate. So I appreciate your willingness and your eagerness. Today we're going to be talking specifically about creating syllabus and how to create an accessible syllabus in multiple different platforms. So I want to give a few cautions first. So this is about the document itself, not about the pedagogy or andragogy that would be contained in that document. So of course there's accessible course design as well, and that might play into how you create some of your policies. But today we're talking about the actual document, right? Just how to make the document accessible in a way that assistive technology can help students read it and understand it. I also want to say I am presuming knowledge. So I am presuming that you have the knowledge from the accessibility basics workshop that we did, I think 2 weeks ago now. So that we went through some terminology and some ideas. However, you might still need some touch points. So if you have questions as we go, please feel free to ask as we go. You might want to have a touch point on, wait, what did that mean again? Or how does that relate to something we talked about in that accessibility basics workshop? And I'm happy to stop and talk as we go to answer those questions, especially because we're building knowledge. So we don't want to get to slide 5 and have you having missed something on slide 3 that now is really coming into play. The idea today is really to spend the bulk of the time working on your actual syllabus. So my goal is by the time you leave today, you actually have something done to show for your time and not just me talking at you. So maybe 30 to 45 minutes of talking and the rest of the time actually doing syllabus work, supported with me in the room so that I can help you if you have any questions or if you need some troubleshooting. So before we get started, does anyone have any questions right off the bat or anything that you're hoping that we cover?
I'm just going to say that I'm going to put a sign-in sheet in the chat. So if everybody would sign that, that would be great. And I will send out flex forms later today or Monday. If you don't get one, feel free to email me.
Excellent. Okay, so let's start by talking about it. Okay, let's start by talking about some format issues. So a lot of this is going to map really well on what we talked about in the basics workshop. So we're going to talk about tagging, we're going to talk about lists, we're going to talk about tables, we're going to talk about images, hyperlinks, and then of course colors, fonts, and sizes. So tagging is very important. And one of the considerations when we're talking about tagging our documents are to think about the levels of nesting. So in our levels, in our tags, we have a number of headings. And you'll see you'll have heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. It's important to note that these are levels, they are not enumerations. So sometimes I see someone who thinks, well, this is the 8th heading on the page, so I need heading number 8. And that's not really what it is. Think about it like the sections of maybe an outline, right? So heading 1 is a large subtitle under which maybe you have 3 items that are heading 2s, and then you'll have another heading 1 that's another topic, and then you have multiple heading twos under that topic, right? So one of the things that you need to think about when you're looking at the way your syllabus is designed, and actually any document is designed when you're putting documents together, are how are these different ideas related? And so, how many levels of nesting do I need, and how will I achieve that through this document, right? So, you don't want to start with heading three, you want to always start with heading one or title. Depending on the platform you're using, you might have access to title, or you might have just starting with heading one. So, you always want to tag titles and headings. And you also want to tag words that are bolded or italicized for meaning, because that will tell the screen reader to let the reader know that those are emphasized. And that is important. So unless the reader is asking the screen reader to tell them about the formatting, right, 12-point font, indented half inch, that kind of thing, they won't know that something is bolded for emphasis unless you tag it as such. So we talked a little bit about how to do that before, and in our Word document guides, there's more about how to do that. So when we move on, if we want to talk more about that, we certainly can. Also, this doesn't really have to do with tagging, but that doesn't really fit anywhere. But um, I encourage you to use line spacing tools rather than entering for skipping lines. That way, the assistive technology knows that this is a new section, or we're moving on to the next paragraph, etc. When you skip lines in order to create formatting, um, that creates that creates multiple paragraphs for the screen reader to scroll through, right? And so what we want to do is use the built-in formatting tools whenever we can to indicate for assistive technology that this is not like a, an enter that they have to read, right? Um, this is formatting. Okay. So this is just an example. This is our sample syllabus. This is the accessible syllabus template that is now in our course shells for us. So this is how I've nested these labels for us, that the title is the course title. Heading one, the instructor information is heading one, the class information is heading one, course information, class information down here. Those are all heading ones. And then heading twos are course description, prerequisite, and student learning outcomes nested underneath course information. And then the specific class information has one header two that we can see here. So that's how this document is set up. Now, when you use this document, you are free to move things around and change the levels of headings as you see fit. This is just built for you so that you can easily copy and paste stuff in here if you like. Lists always use the built-in bullet or numbered list tool in order to create lists. That will give them the appropriate tags when being read by assistive technology. This one is from Microsoft Word. And you can use the increase and decrease indent tool as well. Okay. Tables. So when every time I've been trained on accessibility, we always are told to reconsider your use of tables. Sarah.
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah.
For faculty who might be coming to this, maybe not in this group, but also kind of beyond this group, who have their syllabus in a document and they've been working with it for years. And so it's been added into different versions of Word, and it has all sorts of different formatting that's been picked up and that's been jerry-rigged behind the scenes. Do you have any tips for what to do to start with a tabula rasa? Because sometimes I know that it seems like the formatting that you've brought into a document carries over. I remember this from, and I'm sure Susie Chin does too, from CNI and from Tech Review. Any tips that you recommend for stripping
Sure.
previous formatting choices?
So you can always in Word, so First off, it's pretty easy in Word to just highlight things and then change that formatting by selecting styles. However, if you have a document that's like fighting with you about new styles or formats, I recommend just removing format. And you can do that in the styles as well. In the styles pane, and I can show this to you when we move on to the like hands-on portion. But there in the styles pane, one of the options is to remove formatting. And that will strip it of all the formatting and just bring it back to the text level. Um, and then you can start adding in your formatting through styles at that point. Of course, that's also going to mess up your lists and your tables and all that kind of stuff, but you'll then add all that back in. Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Mhm. All right, so we are told usually to reconsider table information. Think about, could this table be conveyed in a list instead? Could this information use columns instead? Or is this table for formatting purposes? If the answer is yes to any of those, then probably we shouldn't be using a table. We should be using a different tool or a different formatting tool. So the appropriate use of tables is when there are multiple fields that require headers. So if your table doesn't have headers and it doesn't need to have headers, it's probably a list, right? And so we're asked to look at tables really as, are there multiple fields that require headers? So certainly if there are multiple fields that require headers and headers on the vertical axis, then yes, you definitely need a table. And in that case, what you need to do is include um, make sure that your headers are tagged as such for the table for the assistive technology to read. For the more complex tables, this would be those that have the horizontal and vertical access labels. We're asked also to include alt text and captions. So an alt text that describes for the reader what this table is trying to convey, and then they can, look at the different columns and rows to find the information that they need.
I have a question about
Yes.
tables. I'm just thinking, I think on my current syllabus, the calendar, basically is
The
the
same
table.
thing.
So what do you do on your syllabus, Maggie? What's like the most accessible? I mean, is it to just rethink it as a list with columns and not have headers?
I do mine as a list. This is just how I do mine. This is not necessarily the best way to do it or
Yeah.
um, any some such, but I do mine as a list and I use headers. Usually, I think I'm on header 3 for that, or maybe even header 4. For the day of the week is a header, and then it's the topic that we're discussing that day and the things that are due. So that's how I do it. In the sample, or excuse me, in the syllabus template that is now on the community of practice page, I actually included both. I included it as a table because the original document had it as a table. I don't know that that's the most accessible way to see it, however. So I included both so that you can pick and choose. I have formatted the table, so the table should be formatted correctly with the appropriate tags. So if you just put information into it, it should be fine. But but I do think that that's harder for someone who's using a screen reader to access. Okay. So images, this is another thing that's a little bit different in our current context. When I started taking accessibility workshops and classes and trainings, they would always tell us to remove all decorative images. If it's decorative, you don't need it. Get rid of it. And I noticed within the last year and a half of taking these kinds of classes that now there's a lot of add an image, like put an image at the top of this page and all of this interesting, like put a border around it. So I don't know if this is different philosophies because different people have different philosophies about accessibility, right? And this could also be a change in our context. So in my last few trainings, it's been specifically about Canvas and more about distance education. And so I think when we're talking about accessibility within our physical classrooms and we're having to provide documents for students in our classes who are using assistive technology, that's different because the other people in our classes are, all the people in our classes are coming and physically being in our class and can interact with us and see our personality and see what we're doing and can connect with us in that way. Whereas in a distance education class, especially an asynchronous one, we're not able to connect in that way. So maybe this is more of a way to show some personality and some interest, gain interest with our sighted students, right? And so I think that it is still something for us all to think about. What is this image doing? Do I need this image? Is it useful for all students? Is it useful for sighted students? So there are instructional images, certainly. So you'll see in my handouts, they have tons of images, right? Those are instructional images. I think that they're important for conveying, for the sighted people where you're actually clicking on the page in order to achieve your goal. But then there are also decorative images, which are just to encourage interaction maybe or increase engagement. And so it's up to you to decide what's necessary and what's not. And it's also up to you to decide what's in the alt text. So if it is a decorative image, is it so decorative that you can just say decorative and therefore the screen reader skips it completely? Or is it an image that, although it's decorative, does add some meaning or some dimension to the work? So for example, I struggled with this image, the glasses on the page, right? Is this an image that needs alt text or can I mark this as decorative? In the end, I decided that this is decorative. I don't think it's really adding meaning to the page, so I just marked it as decorative. However, in your own classes, you might include a list or an image of a huge stack of books, right? And maybe you're actually trying to get at you're going to be reading a lot in this class. So maybe it does add some meaning or some value. So those are just things to think about when you're looking at your images and deciding what is decorative and what is worthy of some description in the alt text. Another thing is to remember that they should be in line with text. So they shouldn't have any text wrapping that is difficult for assistive technology to interact with. So instead, make sure that all of your images are in line with text. Hyperlinks. So we've talked about this before. We like to use descriptive hyperlinks rather than long form URLs. And of course, we need to check that all the the hyperlinks are actually working, that they actually go to where they're meant to go and they don't bring back some broken hyperlink. Colors, fonts, and sizes. Whenever possible, consider using built-in themes for colors and fonts and sizes to maintain accessibility. So in the technologies we'll be talking about today, this is really only applicable in Microsoft Word. And the latest version is necessary in order to have the most up-to-date ADA requirements built into the program. You'll also want to make sure that your fonts are standard fonts. So that they can be read by a screen reader. So standard fonts are usually the ones that come with the package, the Microsoft Word or your Adobe Acrobat package. Of course, there are other fonts out there that you can go and download other fonts for things like, I downloaded some of these fonts when I built this glass to design it. And those are non-standard. So that means that they can't translate when they go to a different program. You have to have them on your own physical computer. So whereas if I were to have a pretty interesting font and then print it and hand it to a student, they would still be able to see it. When I am sending it electronically to someone, that might cause a glitch, right? So we want to make sure that the fonts that are standard are used in our documents. And so those are like the Calibri, Times New Roman, Arial, Helvetica. They're the ones you know. Um, ensure that the smallest font used is a 12-point font. Okay, I'm going to check the chat to see if there's anything in here that I need to talk about.
Just chatting.
I think Susie had a question.
Yes.
Yeah, it was just asking about, I've used boxes around things to like emphasize, like, here's an example, pay attention to this example. You know, is
Yeah.
that's not recommended? I'm from what I'm hearing.
It's not really recommended. So you can, right? You can add that as an emphasis. If you do, you should also add some sort of language that says th this is important kind of thing.
Okay.
Um, so there are two different ways to do that. So one is in the style itself, in which case the style won't be read to the reader through a screen
Mhm.
reader or other assistive technology. The style just gives some visual emphasis to it, right? So if you're
Mhm.
doing it through styles, it will say like header, right? But it won't say that this is the outline or the what's it called? Border,
Mhm.
border, border style. Um, the student can access that. So if they ask the screen reader to tell them more about the format, it'll call out the 12-point font, double spaced, all that kind of stuff, and then it will say that the border is black border, that kind of thing. But
Mhm.
unless they know to do that, they're not going to know to do that, right? And so
Okay.
it's better to say this is emphasized, or to use the emphasis, subtle emphasis, or strong tool.
For the text part of it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The other way to do it is to create like a chart box, if that's like the appropriate way to do so. So if there are
Mhm.
multiple things, right? And then you would be able to emphasize certain areas within it.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Hmm.
Can I ask a question about links?
Sure.
So, how can you check to make sure that the link you think's working on your end is working when the students click on it? I don't know if anyone ever has that where you're like, I'm clicking and it works, but they're like, oh, it leads nowhere, or it's like a blank page or whatever. Is there a way that you can
Hmm.
somehow know that the link is working for them?
So most programs have a link checker that they'll actually check the links for you. Canvas does as well. So if you put it into Canvas and you say, check my links, it should check them and make sure that they're all going someplace. However, sometimes students are like not logged in someplace that they need to be. So if I put a link to Google Docs and I say they have to be signed in order to edit this, because I want to see who's editing it, not have, slow Loris editing my Google Doc, then they might get blank on their side because they haven't done something that enables it. Or they might have some firewall set up so that the link won't go anywhere because their computer, they don't want it to go anywhere, right? So there are still things that on the student side might be a barrier to them that they have to overcome or change their settings or clear their cookies, right? So that happens too sometimes. Oh, this my computer bookmarked it as the old link and it keeps going back there. So they have to clear their cookies and come back up. So that's the links are always problematic in that way because there's a lot that can go wrong on the student side of technology as well.
Thanks, that's helpful. I didn't even think it could be on there, and maybe I can put like a disclaimer or something like, make sure your firewall or your cookies are cleared.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, thank
Absolutely.
you.
Okay. Huh. That's interesting. So Sarah says that you can't tag the image in the Canvas shell on the dashboard. It's even though it's tagged in the files, when it's on the dashboard, it's not tagged, which is very bizarre.
Yeah, I spent a while in tech support confirming that. So I think if you, because I was doing the division retreat shell, and I was like, let me do this right from the beginning. But I think if you do pick an image for your shell icon that you refer, that's important to your class, I would make a point of including it in whatever your introductory pages or wherever, and find a way to refer to it and explain its importance and tag it there. And in your
Excellent.
shell icon, this was blank, and I'm using this because blah blah blah.
Excellent. Good pro tip. I would not have thought of that. All right. So the different platforms we can use, I just am outlining the four, I think, most popular here, which are Canvas, Microsoft Word, Google Docs, and Adobe PDF. Does anyone work with any platform that's not here? Okay. All right. So in Canvas, there you can build a syllabus module directly into Canvas. And then, oh, when Canvas says the document accessibility is medium, is this acceptable or should we try to get the document to green? That's a good question. Piper, do you know the answer to this?
Sorry, sorry, I was muted, obviously. Um, you can get a lot of different documents to accessibility, but medium probably isn't acceptable. I would say you probably want to get closer to 75%. I'm just going through it with a new course with Katie Datko, and I'm at 97%, and she still wants me to go through.
What is the course with Katie Datko?
Oh, I'm going through my English 101 to get it ready for OEI.
Oh, okay.
Because I just did, English 111 last semester, and now I'm doing a 101 for the exchange. But it's amazing how exacting she is, and she used to do it for @ONE. So I would say, from my experience with OEI, let's put it that way, that 75 to 85% is acceptable for a document. But my experience with Katie is 97 should be pushed to 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
I do think
That's intense. That's intense.
one thing that came up in the last workshop that I may be talking to myself as much as anyone when I say this, but I think because making an entire course totally accessible is such a big job, it seems like one of the things we're encouraging as a division is to kind of prioritize documents, that may make it a little less
Yeah.
intimidating.
Yeah.
So like starting with the syllabus, and that this is going to be something that takes us months or maybe even a couple years, so, but if we all have accessible accessible syllabi on Canvas and in a printable form, I think it's huge.
And I agree with you. I will say that if we're all heading towards something that's going to be beautiful for students who need assistive technology, everything that Maggie's teaching us is amazing. And I would say headers, correctly formatting and titling our tables, giving alt text to any image. These are the things that make a difference for our students.
And this is the time where I say, remember that when you're in meetings with administrators, that you remind them that we would like to have the funding for the accessibility specialist technician.
And I will say, you were beautiful in chairs the other day in your reminder to Michael. So thank you for that.
It's an equity issue.
It is.
And I think another thing, Elizabeth, that can make it less of a huge job all at once is if every document you create going forward, you create it accessible, then you don't need to do the recreation. So if you just focus on the new things that you're creating rather than doing all the back work, maybe do a few of the back work, but not, I'm going to do all the back work this week and make sure that all the stuff that you're creating is accessible.
And I don't know if you already said this, but Maggie has put together handouts with guidelines for creating an accessible document in Microsoft Word, and also guidelines for making an already existing Microsoft Word document accessible. And those will be up on the Community of Practice pages.
Mhm. Yeah. And I was actually thinking that after we do the talking part of this, anyone who's working in Microsoft Word, if you wanted to, we could go over it and do it together so that it's not you by yourself, if that's helpful. So, but let's talk about Canvas. So, uh, I like Canvas for building a syllabus module directly into Canvas and then linking from the syllabus course navigation tool into the syllabus pages themselves. And this is actually the preferred method for DE courses. I like this because it's easier for students to navigate. So in my first foray into Canvas, I just basically copied and pasted in an accessible format with all the correct headers and everything into the syllabus page on Canvas. However, then they're scrolling to get what they need, and that seems to be a barrier to students getting the information that they want. Whereas when it's in the module, I can break it down into much smaller sections with the name of what it is, and they can just read all the names and click on the one that they want to get to. So that seems to be a more accessible model for students, for both our sighted and our assistive technology students. So it seems just to be easier to navigate. Of course, there are students who still want the downloadable printable version, and we still need the downloadable printable version to send to the English department for record keeping purposes. So clearly, if you're doing the Canvas syllabus, you're doing double work. You're going to have to do the printable version as well. However, it just seemed to be such a barrier for my students to be scrolling so much that I found it useful to do the module as well. So the problem with Canvas for me is that custom themes are not possible. So they actually are possible, but we don't have access through them, at least as far as I could tell, through GCC. It's like another thing that the college would have to pay for in order for us to be able to like create our own um, custom themes. So that means that if you want to do like every time I do header one, I want it to be blue. You have to do that every single time you select header one. You have to then highlight it and select blue, right? So I think for me, that's definitely a barrier to my doing really pretty pages because I don't want to be doing all that formatting. It just takes a long time. And also I worry that I won't be consistent. I'll forget to do it on a page, or this page I'll be on 18-point font, and then all of a sudden on this page my headers, I forgot I was 18, I thought I was 16, and now they're 16-point font, right? So things like that, just the consistency can be a problem as well. So if you want to do really pretty custom themes, that might be a barrier for you as well. Any questions about Canvas? Okay. So Microsoft Word, the great thing about Microsoft Word is it's so easy to create an accessible document. It's easy to convert an existing document that you've been working with for years to make it accessible. It can be cloud-based if you're using Microsoft 365. So that means that you don't have to have your computer with you. You can access it anywhere. You can modify it anywhere, which I think is one of the great accessibility features for me accessing it. Multiple theme options allow for really easy color and font changes within the themes, and you can actually create your own custom theme so that you have your own unique style. It can be shared with Canvas or with students via Canvas or on Microsoft 365 directly. And it can be posted on Canvas for downloaded and printing. It can also, fun fact, be embedded into Canvas as a page. And then anytime you update it in Microsoft 365, it will automatically update on the Canvas page. So if you have it posted multiple places, so let's say all your policies are the same no matter what class you're teaching. So you have, all the policy stuff on one syllabus document, you can update it in Microsoft 365 and it will update on all of your Canvas core shells. Um, One of the problems with it is that it can be onerous for students to find certain information. They can do the search tool, but it's not as easy for them as the Canvas tool of like clicking where they want to go, right? So when we talk about user experience and information architecture, we are told that clicking is better than scrolling. And so this is going to be a scroll document and not a click document. There are ways to make it a click document. They're a little bit more sophisticated. You could create a table of contents that's clickable. So that is something that you could do, but it's going to take more time on your end, and I don't know what the how useful that would be for students compared to the ease of copying and pasting into individual module pages in Canvas. So just things to think about. Any questions about Microsoft Word?
Maggie, is it best to start with my Word document and then copy it into the Canvas shell? I saw the template in the 101, or do I start there and then move it over to Word? Like,
Yes, I'm going to talk about conversion at
okay,
the end of this workshop, and if I remembered off the top of my head which was best, I would say it now, but I don't actually remember. But I have a slide on it, so we'll get there.
I have a quick question,
Uh-huh.
which is, so I'm assuming I can take my regular syllabus in Microsoft Word. I can't remember what version it is, but I'm assuming I can like put that on Microsoft 365.
hmm
And then when you say embed into, like the thought that I could update my syllabus in one place and it would be just magically updated everywhere else. When you say embed that, are you talking about a link to Microsoft 365? Is that what?
No, no, I'm talking about embedding it with embed code.
Okay. So I would need
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. So, and I can show you how to do that. I
Okay.
actually don't love it in Microsoft Word as much as I love it in Google Docs. And I can show you some sample pages where I have embedded things. Yeah, I can show you at the end of this workshop and you can see the difference. I will say when you're on Microsoft 365, you can't do the designer functions that you do on the desktop version. So when I'm working with colors and fonts and like changing the style, I would do that on the desktop version and then I would upload that version to 365 for ease of changing things.
Okay. So they'll show up on 365. You just can't design them.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, 365 is definitely more limited than the desktop version for sure. Okay. Google Docs. Again, super easy to create an accessible Google document. Easy to convert to an existing Google document that can document to be accessible. So if, for example, you haven't used headers, it's really easy. Just highlight and click the tag you need, and then it will do it for you, right? It is cloud-based. It's so you can access it from anywhere and change it from anywhere. The link can be shared on Canvas or embedded directly into Canvas. Oh, Google Docs, I lied. So this is on the wrong slide. The embeds are a noticeable page for the Word documents, but on Google Docs, it looks like it's just part of a canvas. It's beautiful and seamless. So this has the same problem with custom themes that Canvas has, that you can't create a custom theme, as far as I can tell, on Google Docs. And so if you want to create your own custom theme, header 1 is always blue, header 2 is always italicized, whatever. That's going to be time consuming because every time you write header 2, you have to reformat it. So that can be tough. Again, this is the same scroll as opposed to click function as Word documents. So you can't really break out information in the same way that you can on a Canvas page, although again, you can hyperlink within your own Google Doc. So it's a little bit easier to create those hyperlinks within the Google Doc if you like. I have a Cornell Notes template, but something like this doesn't convert well. Is there a solution? The template is a table of sorts. I don't know. I would have to look at that and see what we could do to make it convert better and what you're trying to convert to and from. But that's something we could absolutely look at during the troubleshooting section of this, the hands-on section. Any questions about Google Docs?
I have a question about 365.
Yeah.
Sorry, just jumping back. Maybe you had intended to get 365 installed in your computer, but like your power was off for like 3 days this week. I don't know. And if that's the case though, so just so I'm understanding, if I go through, and maybe, you know, this other people might be wondering the same thing. Like, I'm not sure if I have 365. If I go to my OneDrive and I put my document into it by signing in and going to Word, that will give me the non-fancy, non-themed, cool desktop version of OneDrive that I can play with for the accessibility features, though, correct?
No.
No, okay, good, I'm glad I asked.
So it's better to use the desktop version, whatever desktop version you have, even if you're using the 2012 desktop version, because there's more ability to work with the accessibility features in the desktop version.
Okay, thank you.
Styles
And we can all get the most recent desktop version through 365. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. So there's an option once you're in 365 in the web platform to download the different items. So you can download, I have downloaded Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. You can also download OneNote. Did I download OneNote? I might have downloaded OneNote. I'm not sure. But yes, you can download all of those from Office 365. It's now Microsoft 365, sorry.
And Maggie also has a great student-facing video, which obviously can benefit faculty too, about how exactly to do that.
Yeah.
And that's on the community of practice page too.
Yeah.
Video.
Yeah. It's just me going through the motions of actually downloading it from DCC. So it's pretty easy to do. Okay. Then Adobe PDF. So I think this is the traditional, the one that we're super comfortable with, the non-modifiable version of documents to share with students, right? We want to share with them documents that they're not going to change. So I think this is the way that we have most often been sharing things with students is through PDFs. So most PDFs are going to be created in a different format first and then converted to a PDF, so it will be more time consuming. However, once you have accessible documents in other versions, it's fairly easy to translate into PDF and fairly easy to make that PDF also accessible. So but it will take more time, and especially the learning curve time, right? At the beginning, it's going to take a lot of time. Later on down the road, it's going to be super fast and easy. For me, I can do a Word document, throw it into Adobe, and also put it on Canvas very easily, right? Because I've been doing it for a long time. So it's not a big deal for me. It will be a bigger deal if you're just starting out, but if you continue doing it, it won't be as big a deal in the future. So that's one good thing. You'll get better. I like it because it can be posted for students on Canvas for downloading and printing, and of course they can't change it, which is nice. Not even that I think that my students are trying to change things, but sometimes they're clicking in it and they're erasing things and they don't know that they're erasing things, or they're, they thought they were in a different document and they pressed enter and now everything's off. That kind of thing happens. And so sometimes it's just helpful for students to have a version that they can't really change. So that's good. Adobe has the same issues with our, scrolling versus clicking, which is it can be onerous for students to find information because it's a long document. My syllabus, including the course schedule, is something like 13 pages long. So if you're thinking about like scrolling, that's a lot of stuff to get through. Of course you can create clickable links within Adobe. You can create all sorts of structure in Adobe, which is great. But again, that's going to be more sophisticated and more sophisticated and more time consuming and more time consuming. So those are the things that we might want to be thinking about with Adobe PDF. Okay, let me read all this. Oh yes, we have a Making PDFs Accessible workshop on the 19th, February 19th. And so we'll go through step by step how to take an existing PDF and make it accessible. So for those of you who have readings that you photocopied from books 10 years ago and you would like to make them accessible, that's the workshop for you. Okay. Any questions before we move on? We're going to kind of turn our attention to something else now. Okay.
Joanna seems to be saying in the chat that it was hard to download the latest version of Word. So maybe we're going to have to contact IT. I don't know.
Yeah, sorry, my explanation was horrendous. I had been using the desktop version of Office for a while, and all of a sudden it was giving me a notification that the desktop version would no longer be active. It was like going to be deleted. So I contacted IT. It was like the version that we have a subscription for was changing. We were only going to have the online, like cloud-based version, and I hate that version. So luckily they remotely installed the desktop version for me. It was really easy. So I definitely recommend, if you don't like the online only version, get in touch with IT.
When did that happen for you, Joanna?
Last week.
Okay.
It was saying by the end of January it would be going away.
Interesting. So I started getting a weird message this morning that said, "Oh, your institution doesn't allow you to make edits on this document." And I was like, "Wait, what?" This is a problem. I need to be able to edit my documents. So, yeah, I don't know why. Yesterday I was editing documents just fine. No idea. So
I don't know about that. Yeah, well, hopefully, I mean, IT should be able to help with that. I would assume they've been very helpful. So
excellent. Okay. So, thank you. Auto captioning, before you go, Piper, it's just this button right here on the on when you're in PowerPoint. This button right here turns on the captioning and turns it off.
And you were saying something about how you've edited it in the past, and because the captions are so accurate generally, and that's because you've kind of trained it over time, I guess.
Yeah, so the more these technologies, just like your phone, if you're, using voice to text all the time, at first it's kind of wonky and it's making weird uh, mishearing or miswriting. And the more you use it, the better it gets, right? And that's the same with any of this technology. So the more you use it, the more it's going to know your voice and your speech patterns, and the better it's going to be. So I use mine a lot. So therefore, mine is pretty good.
Well, I'm going to jump off, but I love this. I never use PowerPoint, but now I will. Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye, Piper.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Thank you, guys.
So here's the question about converting file formats. What's best to start with and move to? So Word to PDF. Lists translate, but headings don't. So you have to retag all your headings, which is not difficult. It's pretty fast once they're there, once you've created a good document. However, the big part is the lists that they do translate, because lists are not easy to tag in PDF. So because they translate, that's great. Docs to PDF does not translate well. The lists don't tag at all, and as I said, the lists are very difficult to tag. So I wouldn't do docs to PDF if I didn't have to. Okay, Word to Canvas, it translates, but it starts at heading 2. And this is because when you're copying and pasting into a Canvas page, the title is actually the title of the page. So it won't copy that as a tagged title. You'll have to copy and paste that into the title portion. And it doesn't have heading 1 because it assumes title is heading 1. So anything starting at heading 2 and beyond, and including your lists will be fine. That will translate and that will already be tagged. So you'll have to go in and change any heading 2s that should be heading 1s, etc. Docs to Canvas translates, same thing, starting at heading 2, lists translate fine. Canvas to Word, lists translate, but headings don't. So you're going to have to go back into the headings and tag each one of them. Sarah.
I think that's, I just want to make sure that that's really clear for everyone, including myself, is that just, you really have to keep things consistent. So that you would have to go back and make the changes in the Word document. And I'm assuming, this was a question I had earlier, is that if you do use the cool themes in 365 and you are putting it into a Canvas page, they really would need to look identical, right? So an interesting theme choice that you use in your Word version, you would want to match that in your Canvas page. And sometimes that might not be possible, or it would be very tedious if you have to change colors or the like.
I actually don't.
Okay.
I don't know that that's a best practice, but that's just what I do. So if you download my syllabus, most of the headings are blue, but on Canvas, all of my headings are black. They're just what Canvas automatically does with the headings and the heading sizes and everything like that. So I figure as long as the information is the same and the assistive technology is going to read it the same, then the color choice and whatnot, I'm giving that up for the ease of just being able to get through it fast. Now, probably it'd be best if it all looked exactly the same every place it was, but that's something I give up.
Okay, but you would keep the heading size consistent. Okay. But
so the heading size is chosen by Canvas. Actually, it's chosen by our school. Whoever installed it at our school chose our theme. And so we have one consistent theme that we use. And so the heading size, like heading 1 will always be the same, or excuse me, heading 2 will always be the same size. Heading 3 will always be the same size, unless you go in and change it every single time.
Okay, but so if you went from Canvas, creating it in Canvas to Word, you'd have to do some adjustments, but Word to Canvas, it would be okay? I don't hope I'm not missing this, something.
Yeah, either way you have to do, you have to make adjustments.
Correct. Right.
Either way, you're gonna have to make adjustments, yeah. So there's no easy, oh, I'll just copy and paste this from here and it's done. You're always gonna have to do the retagging, essentially. So Canvas to Docs, it translates starting at heading 2, but the lists translate. This is the best one I found. Excuse me. PDF to Word, everything remains tagged. So when you're going from a PDF that is already tagged and you're converting it to a Word document, everything stays tagged. But there are 2 options. There's retain flowing text and some other option that's like, I forget what. But you have to select retain flowing text. And then when you convert it to Word, everything remains tagged. Everything is perfect. There is no difference to make. I don't know how useful that is because you usually make the document in Word and then translate it into PDF and then to translate it back out to PDF. I mean, okay. But I actually did this with a photocopy text that I had photocopied, OCR'd, tagged in PDF, and then I translated it into Word. And when I opened it, I tried all the different formats and they were all tagged correctly.
Wow.
So if you're doing one of those types of things, like a photocopy or something you got on the internet, and it's not a document you created, if you do it in PDF to Word, that's a better way to do it than doing it in Word to PDF, I found. And this, by the way, this is nothing official. This is me like copying and pasting and seeing if it worked, right? I didn't find this anywhere. This information is not like anywhere official. So this may change, or maybe I did something differently than you do. So this is just in my experience. So PDF to Canvas, there was no tagging whatsoever, and PDF to Docs, there was no tagging either. So those are my conversions. Okay, questions before we move into doing actual things.
I'm just thinking sometimes I have things in PDFs I want to edit, so I put them in Word for that reason. So that could be really useful.
Depending on how much editing you do, You might not even have to put them in Word though. So sometimes I'll find, oh, there was a typo, right? And so if it's just a typo or something like that, I can just edit it directly in the PDF. You don't need to put it back into Word and then put it back in the PDF. So if you're changing like, oh, I'm changing my policy here, then yes, it's probably better to put it in PDF or in Word before you move it back to PDF. Questions, Sarah? Your hand is raised. You have a question? Okay. Anyone else? Okay. All right, so there are some resources that I want you to be aware of, and then we'll start doing the like hands-on stuff. So as I said, there are 2 syllabus modules on Canvas. There is one in the master course shell, and that is the DE specific one that has everything. You can just copy and paste and change the information. And in the master course shell, it is already, you can see how it is linked to the syllabus navigation menu. So you can see how that works. Mine is also up. It is in the community of practice page. And so you can see my syllabus module as well. It is not linked to the syllabus navigation, course navigation, because, well, it's not a syllabus for our course. But you can see how I've broken mine up. Mine is broken up much more than the one in the master shell. I wanted every page to have smaller information. That's part of the user experience and information architecture type of integration, is that we're looking usually for more clicking and less scrolling. So I wanted to put less information on every page and have it called out as what that information is. So you can see the 2 different ways of doing it and choose. You can copy and paste mine directly into yours and just delete all the actual stuff in it and copy and paste your information into it, or you can use the one that's on the master shell, and you can, copy that into your course shell and do it from there. I've created 3 guides: making an existing Microsoft Word document accessible, creating an accessible Microsoft Word document, creating accessible PDFs. So those are up on the community of practice page. There's also the syllabus template that we have in the English department. I have gone through and tagged it and made it accessible, so we can take a minute and look at that. If we have people who are working on different things, I was thinking we could be in different breakout rooms if we wanted to be, or if some of us want to still talk, we can move out into breakout room and have other people continue working. And then basically this is just for support and troubleshooting for the rest of the session. Is the DE template fully accessible? I believe it is. That one Piper put up for us. I believe the DE template is fully accessible. Mine is fully accessible, and the template, the Word template, is fully accessible as well. So all of these should be accessible for you. Although I've got to be honest, I did not check the one that Piper put in the master course shell.
Joanna had a question.
Yes. So let me look. What is I lost my chat. Hang on. Maggie, where can I find the version of your syllabus? Yes. Let me stop this share. Let me open up. Okay, so mine is in, it might be only in the 101 community of practice page.
Right. I can put it up on 101 Plus later today. I might have forgotten to do that.
Okay, so this, let's see. Oh, here's mine. So I have a page for the full syllabus. I have the page for the class assignment schedule. And then I use headings and then smaller breakout pages. Oh, I don't know why that's not live.
So
So for this, it's a module that you call syllabus, and each of the items in the syllabus are pages,
Correct.
individual pages. Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's also a printable version.
Yes. And if you look at the course shell, I didn't link this in our syllabus, but if you look at the master course shell, I'll show you there, the syllabus, she actually linked it for us. So this is ideally how it would be, where you also have it as a module. So this is the syllabus module. So she only has 6 pages and I have like, 50. But hopefully not actually 50, but I don't actually know. But that it links here so that you could go directly from one to the other. And so that's how I have it on my actual class page. So this is my actual class page, and if you go to my syllabus page, which is not visible right now, but I have the link.
But you had to populate that syllabus link with those. It doesn't kind of just pull from the module you created.
No, but that's really easy. So if you're on the syllabus page, let's see if I can get there again. If I were to edit this, and let's say I wanted to include another link, course links, and then if I know what page I want, I can even search for it. So let's say I'm saying
Got it. Okay. So right. So you're not actually literally going and copying and pasting. There's like a drop down menu where you can choose to insert those pages.
Exactly.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not too difficult, and it's really fast. It takes just a few minutes to do the whole syllabus.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, I also wanted to show you how things look embedded. So let me go to my sandbox. Oh, that's not what I want. What am I doing? Sorry. So this is the Microsoft 365 embed. And you can see, I say first I woke up because that's something that I changed in 365 to see if it would show up here. It does. It takes a few minutes, so it's not immediate. Whereas the Google Docs version, like as you're changing it, if you refresh the page, you're seeing it change. It's amazing, right? So it takes a little bit longer than the Google Docs. But this is how that would go. This is how it looks. And so as you can see, you can see that it's a page, right? You can see the Microsoft Word page put in here, whereas the Google one is a little bit more seamless.
Wait. Okay. Maggie, can you show the steps to doing that embed again? I kind of missed it. So
oh, you didn't miss it. I didn't show the steps we're doing.
Okay, because I was reading the chats and stuff. So okay.
Okay.
So yeah, how did you do those?
Okay. So you start in your Google Doc.
We're not seeing your Google Doc.
I'm resharing right now. Hang on, let me just. It's taking me a minute. Sorry. Okay, so here are my Google Docs, right? So let's see. This is the one I edited yesterday.
Okay.
So if you go here, and it's basically the same in Microsoft as well. So if you go here and you say publish to the web. Oh, not take out of trash. Clicked on the wrong thing. Okay. Publish to the web. This is the link, but you go to the embed code and then you copy the embed code and then you go back here. You go back to Canvas. Um, Now tell me, are you seeing what I'm doing, or are you only seeing, like, can you see this drop down?
Yes.
Yes.
So
So you just started a new page?
yeah, I started new pages to show you. So I started this new
Okay.
page. And then you go down here, which says that you're going to work in HTML now, and you're going to put it in there. And then I would also do the width. Well, I'll show you what it looks like without adding a width and a height.
Okay.
Okay, let's say save and publish. So this is what it looks like if you just put it normally, and you're going to be like, ah, what happened?
Right.
You just need to put a width and a height. So I'm going to go back to this, and I will put width.
So it's after frame.
And height. Yes,
Okay.
I think this is right. Equals, let's say 1,000 pixels. I think that's right. I might be missing an H. Let's see. Oh, ta-da!
Yay. Wow.
And then you can see if I go back to the document. So I'm going to go back here. And I'm going to say, check this out. Okay, it says it's saved to drive, and then I go back. There's a lot of clicking back and forth. Okay, then I go back here and refresh my page. Oh, should have. Maybe not. What's happening?
I don't know if I'm doing this wrong, but I've had similar challenges when I've been working on embedding buttons in my course. And it's odd, but sometimes it's like you need to recopy and paste the code and then it works. I mean,
Interesting.
I don't know if this was like me turning off the printer and turning it back on again, like just messing
Right.
around where I'm like, why is it using the old, like a different version? So and that hasn't worked consistently, but I've noticed it's almost like it's keeping the older version and maybe like, I'm not really sure what it is, but that's the only thing I found that it's worked.
Oh, it could be a cookies thing.
Oh, a cookie.
So
Oh, yeah.
when I did it yesterday, it totally worked. The other one that I did, let's see if the other one works. Google Docs embed. And then, yeah, I did this change and refreshed it, and it did. So I'm interested in that. So yeah, maybe it doesn't work as well as I thought it did. Because I don't want to be copying and repasting embed codes all over the place, right? That would be absolutely a pain in the butt.
So, as you can tell, I'm a little obsessed with this idea of updating my syllabus and having it carry over. Did you do that with your printable syllabus? Or I guess I'm trying to think, how do you?
Look, it did.
Oh, yay. Cool.
So it just took a few minutes.
Okay.
I didn't do this with my syllabus, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, so then I would be printing my syllabus as a page, but I probably couldn't do it with I could do it with the printable version if it was with Microsoft
So,
Word, I guess, right?
the way you might want to do it is you do it in Google Docs or in Microsoft Word, either one.
Yeah.
And then the printable version could be a link to the Google Doc. Just make sure that it's not editable except for you, right? Unless they have access to it. Anyone with the link can view it, but only you can edit it.
Okay.
And then they'll have the printable version, and you'll have the version embedded into different Canvas pages.
Okay. That's really cool. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Are there other things that I said I would show you that I have forgotten? Oh, let me show you the syllabus or the syllabus template. So this is the syllabus template. It's Reed's template that I just added tags to essentially. Um, and so like this is already tagged for you with the header done. So you don't have to worry about this table. This table is already done. Um, Everything has alt text. So you can just be like changing the actual words if you want to change the words. This is the table version of the course schedule. I've tagged it appropriately, so it should be fine. I don't prefer my course schedule in that format, so I also did how I do my course schedule here. So you can choose which one you prefer to do if you want one or the other. Either way, right? So
Maggie, the big bright yellow box that you have up there, is that what is that? Is that like like an PDF,
so
I
that's
mean JPEG, or is that something else? Is that like, because that's kind of what I was referring to when I said I'll put borders around things that I think, oh, I want to draw students' attention to it.
right.
So,
This is a text box. So
okay.
the reader will read it as a text box, and um,
And that's okay. I
this
mean, that's acceptable. Or
right. So for me, I
acceptable.
mean, I'm not the DE person who's going to determine, right? So I think this is acceptable, but you might find someone else
Right.
who disagrees, right? So I think that this here is the official GCC College Board policy is calling the next information out as being the official College Board policy. So I
Okay.
this information I think is the textual version, the read aloud version that tells me what's coming next is an excerpt from someplace else. And so for the cited, the thing that tells me that is the text box, right?
Right.
But a screen reader will still be highlighting that this is important information. And again, then because it's called out that way, the student might ask for the screen reader to tell them something about the format.
So when what the student hears, a student who will hear the reader just read whatever that link is, or is that what you're saying? Is that
No,
a link?
no, it's
Okay.
not a link. This is text, so it will read all of this like text. So a
Oh,
screen reader will
so that,
read here the official College Board policy. College study is the process of acquainting students with. So it'll just read it, but I think that this is enough of a call out to tell me that something comes
okay.
being highlighted.
So the blue part that says GCC College Board policy is not itself a link.
This is a link, yeah. The
Oh,
blue,
it is a link also. Okay, right. So, but that's not what the reader's reading. The reader's reading what's in the yellow.
correct.
Okay,
So,
even though it's the
so,
same content. Right, got it.
so is it also a tag? It's not a tag? Or, well, the tag is academic honesty.
So this is, if you look at my styles,
Yeah.
this is in heading 2. So that's tagged as heading 2.
Okay.
Okay. Um, and then this is a link that goes here. I just clicked on it, it took me here.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I have a really basic question, which is I haven't started this process yet.
Mhm.
Some of the syllabus I have on Canvas is from the DE course shells. So maybe some of that is accessible. So I get, and then I have, I don't know what my version of Microsoft Word is. I guess I'm just wondering if you can give us advice about like where to start. Like, should we start with our old version of Microsoft Word document? Do you have any thoughts about sequencing in terms of starting?
I think while we're together today, I think it's a good idea to start with a new document and start putting it together and ask your questions while we're together. I can go over how to do it. You can look at the handouts. So I would start with creating a new one in Microsoft Word.
Okay.
And then you'll have so much of a better handle on it when you've done it a little bit that you
Yeah.
can go covering, using the template if you wanted to instead of creating your own, that kind of thing.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Does that sound like a good time now to move into actually doing hands-on?
Sounds good to
Okay.
me. The syllabus module. Yes, I will, Joanna. I will add that today. Um, always use course links instead of copy and pasting URLs. Then when you
Hey, Joanna, can I ask what you mean by that? I think I understand, but can you clarify using course links instead of copying and pasting URLs?
Yeah, that's what Maggie was showing us when she did the what do you click on the link when you're in Canvas? You click on the link icon, and then instead of external URL, you click on course links, and then it brings up all your pages that you can click on, or you can search now. I think that search function is new. That's very helpful. But if you want to make a link like to a page, instead of grabbing the URL of that page and then inserting that link, use that internal course links, because then like if you're copying the Canvas course into like a new semester or something, then it'll repopulate with the correct links to that course instead of directing, like accidentally linking you back to the old course. Does that make sense?
So instead
It's
of
just
copying,
helpful if you plan to use the same like Canvas course through
Okay.
like multiple semesters or something, because then you don't have to redo all the links.
yeah, so you're gonna go here and press on the course links and then link to whatever you're wanting to link to. Link to an assignment, a quiz, an announcement, discussions, whatever, or pages. And then you can search. So if you have a ton of pages and you don't want to like scroll through everything, you can just search for what you're looking for. So like tech, let's say. Oh, there we go. And I say link to that, and it just puts it right in there for me.
So wait, isn't that already, is this functionality different than what's currently in Canvas, where if I were going to do that, I would highlight the text and then go to the side and then find like the correct page or the correct assignment if I'm linking something, if I want to link an assignment within my announcement? It's always just been on the left-hand side. Is this something?
Oh yeah, so they did an update on Canvas last week, and so it looks a little bit different now. But I will also say that you don't have to highlight the text. If
Okay.
you're going to write the same words, right, you don't need to highlight the text. It's only if you want the text to show up as something different. So let's say I'm typing, I want you to all visit our tech folks,
Mhm.
right? And then instead of this, I want it to just say tech. If I insert that, then this link will go to this page, right? So if you're wanting it to, like the syllabus page, I want them to see the actual name of the page. So there's no writing the words and then highlighting and linking. It's just like throw the link in.
Okay.
Oh,
Sorry, I missed that the Canvas went through an update last week. I'm like, this looks different. Okay.
Oh yeah, it randomly changed. I was like, oh okay, so okay, nice. Find where all my buttons are. Okay.
So Maggie, do you suggest that we do it on Word first and then set up the pages in Canvas?
I like that best, yeah, but it's up to you how you're going to do it. And if you have any questions or need any help as we go, I'm happy to walk you through it or talk you through it.
Great.
I think
Okay.
my question is, again, I'm sorry, but we've been making so many Canvas pages this week, is where is your stuff again? Is it in the 101 community of practice? Or Elizabeth, where is it?
Yeah, a lot of it is in the 101 community, 101 and 101 plus community of practice pages. There's a module called resources for
Oh.
creating accessible documents or something.
Okay.
What is not there yet, only there's one thing that I had to add to the 101 plus page, which is Maggie's syllabus module. That is in the 101 community of practice page, but not the 101 plus one yet. And then everything from today will be in both community of practice pages too. The recording and the PowerPoint, and I can't remember the other things, but I can send out an email with flex forms about it.
Okay, I think I was just getting confused because there's a section in the 101 community of practice that has sample syllabi. So I was like, I don't see anything in there. So it might be helpful to direct people kind of saying, see below for examples of syllabi.
Yeah.
I don't, I just, I was like, oh, I didn't scroll down far enough. I didn't scroll enough.
Yeah, I have some organizing to do on that page, but that's helpful. Thank you. Well, if anybody wants to start, I know Cynthia wants to talk to Maggie about her Cornell template. If anybody wants, I don't know, does everybody else want to work on Microsoft Word, or should we make a Microsoft Word breakout room, or what do people feel like doing? If we all want to work on Microsoft Word, maybe Maggie and Cynthia could do a breakout room about the Cornell template.
Yeah.
I'm working on my syllabus.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. So maybe we just work.
Yeah, I'll create a breakout room and Cynthia and I can go into the breakout room.
And then if we start weeping, we'll message you.
Yeah.
Maybe we can help each other. Your handout is in my printer upstairs. I'm gonna go get it and start.
Yeah, it should be pretty easy. Yeah, with both of the handouts. The creating one is the more extensive one, so I would look at that one first, unless you really are transitioning from an existing document. All right. And I made it so that you can hop into the room too if you want to hop in and tell me something, ask me something. You're able to move amongst the rooms. Cynthia, you should have gotten an invite.
This is like a really basic observation, but I think that people, including myself, get thrown off by the word tagging and what it means. Like tagging basically just means selecting the appropriate, like being consistent with your heading styles and your fonts and things like that. That's more or less how I'm paraphrasing it for myself. But I think of it as being like adding additional text to something, which is actually when you do the alt text. Has anyone else found this confusing? I mean, not Maggie. Maggie has helped me clarify that confusion that I had in my heart. Okay. Is it okay? Thanks, Nancy. We're yay. I'm glad I wasn't the only one. Oh, I kept picturing like graffiti tagging over like more.
I just figured I'd go back and re-listen to the recording.
No, it was very helpful. All right, I'm going to go back to work now.
Maggie, can you explain one more time your preference between the calendar and the table format versus the list format? Maybe she's in another room.
She might still be in the breakout room with,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
but she said you could go in there.
Okay.
Um,
It seems like it's easier to read in the table format. You know, I'm not used to the text format.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Oh, it seems like the calendar would be easier to read in the table format.
Oh, for the screen reader, you mean,
Mhm.
or just, yeah,
Well, for just,
for students?
yeah, looking at it, but
It seems like also if you don't have a ton of tables and they're just in your syllabus, then in your like video that introduces the course, which is one of the requirements that we have for the DE, to kind of get a meets expectations for the DE section. If you call that out and have that discussed through voice in a video, that could also help to offset any challenges. Because I think the alt text could get really long, but if you include that in your video, like the table is doing, that would seem to be sufficient to me, but I'm not an accessibility expert.
So you're saying to say in the video, this is how this is organized? Yeah.
Yeah. One of the DE rubric criteria is that you have like an introduction to the course video. And when you went it through IOTL, you did the thing where you like have your video on key course policies, but it's also basically requiring that you do a video that orients students to the syllabus and the front page. And so I think to me, like I don't use a ton of tables. They're in the syllabus. So it seems like you could probably, if you're worried about like how to include them or like what information to supplement, if the video could pick this up too, like in the tag, even you could put in the alt text, like in the alt text, hyperlink to the video that describes the syllabus.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that would work. So I was trying to find my ticket number for spring, and I just did 2 searches with my name in the course schedule, and I'm not there, but I'm going to assume I was doing something wrong. I got my ticket number from Canvas, so.
Let me find you. I'm in the AIS reports right now. I'm always there this time of year.
I probably did something.
Elizabeth, I think Elizabeth, I think the same thing happened to me. I think make sure that you don't have, it automatically checks the box open courses only. So if your course happens to be filled, it may not show up.
Okay.
So make sure, yeah, it's just like a little button or box at the bottom of one of the top fields there.
All right, I'll check for that. I'm finding these guides from Maggie are so clear. They're so good.
You're definitely there, Elizabeth. Yeah, and that happened a lot. That happened when they did the PeopleSoft update. It started automatically selecting
open courses
only, and I started getting panic calls from faculty who thought their class would disappear.
And I'm just glad to add, to your stampede.
It's okay. That's how we figure it all out.
Yeah. Does anybody have a theme to recommend for like a syllabus? Maybe I'll just do office.
I think what I'm finding is I actually kind of like my syllabus, but I'm going through and making sure all the headings are consistent. Is anybody else doing that? I like what I had.
Yeah.
I like everyone else too a lot, but
I'm just going through my syllabus, which I think may be partially accessible, and just making sure I'm using the styles, option so that everything's consistent.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm like Sandra D, semi-accessible, like semi just checking through.
I'm back. Does anyone have questions?
I'm finding your handout really, really, really clear.
Excellent.
So this is great.
Maggie, could you just review why you prefer the text calendar versus the table calendar?
Yeah, I think that it's more accessible to screen readers because the the table implies that there are multiple fields that the screen reader will have to say, okay, this is this information within this field, right? Um, and so for me, I just don't see the necessity of having the multiple fields across the table. For me, I don't break out like, oh, this is what we're doing during the day. This is what your homework is. This is what your long-term work is. So a place where I might use a table is someplace where I'm describing the essays, right? Where it might be like the assignment and then the word count and then, are they doing an MLA or APA and then the due date and then the percent of your score? Because those are multiple categories that every single thing in that row is going to have those multiple categories and it's going to be a matrix of information. Whereas in my calendar, I don't feel like that's a matrix of information.
Okay, that's really helpful.
Maggie,
Mm-hmm.
so what I'm doing right now is I'm going through my syllabus and I'm just making sure that I'm applying the styles. And I have this one section where it's basically bullet points. Basically, I normally would use bullets as a list, but when I apply the style to say that it's a normal text, it removes the bullets. Can I still go back in there and add the bullets and that's okay? Or do I have to redefine it, like redefine a new or define a new style and call it list or something?
So when you created the bullets, were you using the list tool?
I was using under paragraph where it has like the little buttons for
Yeah.
the bullets. Yeah.
So that's the way that you would tag that as a list. So
Okay.
you highlight that information, click on the bullet pointed list, and then it should convert it to a bullet pointed list.
Okay.
But if you're saying normal text, then it's not normal text, right? So you're telling the computer to make it normal text, but this isn't normal text. This is a bulleted list.
Okay. So I don't need to create a separate styles option that includes the bulleted list. Just by using that option, that's fine.
Correct.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Maggie, have you yet put up the accessible English division?
Template?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's on the community practice page?
it's on both of them, yeah.
Okay, great.
So if you're using that one, you don't have to worry about any of the tagging or anything. You can just copy and paste your text into the appropriate, policy area.
And you can change, and I probably could change the names of some of the headings because it'll keep the tag, right? Or it'll keep the, okay. All right. Everybody who's still here, I will sign you all in. And I will send you a flex form. And just a reminder that there's that other workshop Friday, February 19th for PDFs, how to make those accessible. If you have like an old essay you've been using for years, it's in PDF form. And for that one, you do need Adobe Acrobat DC, right, Maggie?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you don't have that, just email Sarah and she'll help you get it through IT.
Maggie, can I show you my screen? I'm
Absolutely.
working on the first week one of the course schedule just to make sure it looks okay.
Mm-hmm.
Does that week 1 look okay?
Mhm.
I just tabbed it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Ugh.
And then Elizabeth, did you want to chat a little bit too about next week?
Yes. Should we go into a breakout room or if people are going to hang out?
Let me go ahead and end the recording, and then we can continue with whatever we need to do.
Okay. Do you want to make Sarah a co-host so she can make it, or me a host so we can go into a breakout room? We have to